Alright, so I'm starting back talking to my buddy Jeric here, reading from my tablet. So I was making a important observation I found today. I was reading the book Making It Stick. Scientists showing the best way to learn and to remember things, because I think that's a big topic of people who study in the academic world. They're like, how can I memorize better? And it basically talks about what we're taught in school, the mass learning. Jack, do you remember, like, just if I just read a bunch of stuff and then have a test, then what
Read
happens?
and then regurgitate.
Read and regurgitate. See, that's funny you say that, because so you just eat it and you throw up. It's not good.
It doesn't stick.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
You don't just eat a bunch and throw up. But basically what the scientists said is that if you practice stuff that's spaced out, interleaved with other learning, it allows for better retention and allowed versatility. So kind of going back to in life, reflecting on my life, and Jake, reflect on yours. It's like some of the lessons you learn, like maybe what your parents have taught you. It's like from hindsight, you're like, man, like what are they doing? And then later you're like, whoa, that is like they knew what they were talking about because they went through it, right? Like today I was washing my car, and my dad was like, I always taught you like to wash your car before, and now you're doing it, and it's just like now that you're wanting to do this business and whatnot, you want to present electric vehicles, you want to keep your car clean, right? Because it's how you're presenting yourself. It's like now I'm like understanding it, growing up. I'm like, whoa, like I'm going for this thing. That's why they were teaching me this. So it talks about people who, in the book, how if you, basically some of the mindsets to have is like to quiz yourself, to have, random, put it in different orders and stuff. And basically what happens is in the brain, you think that it's more effort. You're like, man, this is tough to learn this way. Because we're taught growing up that, I just want to read, do this, and then I get the A, right? Or I get whatever grade I get. And so that's what they attribute to. So, but actually it's a false sense of security. Your brain thinks that you're actually mastering something, but you're actually not. Because the best way to actually do it is when it goes into like, it becomes subconscious, where you're like, what should I do? Right or wrong? Right. Right? So I was going back and relating it to like, I've been getting just huge revival in the Bible. I think about life in general. And it's like, life is just one big test. And the Bible is like right there for you to read. It's an open book test. It's like, here's the book of life. And you just have to read. All the lessons are there for you. And just people just have the book closed. They're like, oh, closed-minded. I'm just going to learn. I'm just going to do it myself. I know I already know it. I already know it. I've read enough that I'm just going to do life by myself. YOLO. Right? Yeah. But it's like, no, it's like, well, see from this perspective, if you believe in intelligent design, it's like we've proven now with science that the best way to learn is through random life lessons, but it's not really random. It's like, now think of it as your life in general, and then maybe in the Bible, how it's written. It's like...
So just following example, or following what the Bible says in the stories, what it's trying to say. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say that like the way it's written is on purpose, because you can't just give everyone all the answers. That's not the best way to do it. Like the parables of like teach a man to fish or stuff like that. And now just going back and making the connection, it's like, whoa. It's like the best way that scientists have proven to remember and learn is this way. And then now relate it back and be like, whoa, so the Bible just teaches you things here and there. You might not even use it now, you'll use it later. Or like, this might not, you think, it doesn't apply to you, but it does apply to you, right? You want to talk about that, Jeric?
I think one of the things is people trying to learn things like just by trial and error. Like just like, okay, yeah, you can learn by trial and error, but there's a much faster way of learning. Like going through trial and error, yeah, you can learn that way, but it takes a very long time to do that because you have to go through a lot of trials, basically, to get the right thing. But if you have, like, the Bible, for example, or people in your life to pour into you, if you have mentors that have gone through that before, it's so much easier to learn from them instead of having to go through yourself and, just like, going through, basically, get in trouble and trying to get yourself out.
So
You
what
can
is
save
who-
yourself a lot of time and in life lessons learned by just listening and just like just doing what the Bible says, basically. Having mentors, having accountability.
Now,
And,
it's great that you say that because, you know, from people here in the earth perspective, we're like, man, I know if I have a teacher or a mentor, I could learn better, right?
Yeah.
It's just people know that. But for some of those, they can't make the connection and be like, the Bible, Jesus is the first mentor, the first teaching, and people forget that, and there's just like a disconnect. Like, what do you have to say about that? It's just they need to be enlightened in the mind, or what exactly?
Well, I think it's more of like a pride issue. Like people just don't
Like
want to listen
like
to
an
that
ego.
because kind of like an ego, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, with people, some people are teachable, some people are not teachable, and the people that aren't teachable, they usually have some sort of like trying to hold on to something because of pride or ego or whatnot. While people, those who stay humble and are teachable, those are the ones who end up growing more because
they listen to
they're actually
everything.
listening, right?
Yeah. Kind of like what I've gone through right now is like, you know, really letting go. It's like, I don't know anything. And I'm okay with that. Like, even though I have my degree or whatever, it's like, man, there's so much more to learn in life. It's exciting. It's like, I don't know if you could, like, this is a video, this is a voice recording, like, just coming back in Augusta, I'm just like, whoa. There's just so much to learn. And it's like this huge, like, it's like I'm bubbly, this excited factor.
Yeah.
Where people who are like, oh, I have to like learn and do this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know, I was reading in Romans where it talks about you switch like the different forms of slavery. You remember that? Where it says like you want to learn.
Right.
And like that's something we're trying to incorporate in like health and fitness. Is like you were saying it, you know, last week. You know, it's like, oh, instead of what was it, Jake?
Oh, you're slaves to something?
No, and like instead of working, having to work out, it's like I get to work out.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's just the mentality.
It's all about mentality. That's right.
And like it may sound like, oh, this is just we're just saying the same things over and over again, but I mean that's where it starts. It's like the foundations. It's like there's a lesson to be learned here where, you know, in my life it's like, man, I'm hearing the same thing over and over again but from different sources. I'm like, what does that mean? Like I was like, why are all these people all saying the same thing? And then I'm just like, it was just shined a light on me. I was like, it's all teachings from the original source.
Right.
And you know, I think that's just what it is. Like I have a good quote, Charlie Munger, you know, he talks about to get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. You know, most people they live this kind of like, you know, I deserve everything because of me.
Entitlement.
Yeah, entitlement. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, what do you have to say about that? You know, we were talking about people live like a lottery style approach. Like, you know, doesn't matter. I'm gonna win the lottery tomorrow, or tomorrow's like gonna be better because I think it will. Instead of like tomorrow's gonna be better because I'm gonna make it better. Right. So what do you have to say that? And like,
well, I think yeah, you bring up a good point. So basically, a lot of people have this mentality that they can just be fed all the time. They have this entitled mentality. Oh, this is mine. Like, I want that, or I want this. I deserve this. So when they end up actually receiving it, they haven't put in the. I guess they haven't invested into their character enough to deserve that kind of glory, or deserve that kind of blessing, or to deserve this. Whatever they want or whatever they desire, because they weren't ready in, as far as their character. So when they're given, like, you know, if somebody wins the lottery, a lot of times, you know, they're not happy. They're actually the opposite of happy. They're miserable because they don't know how to handle it, and they end up spending all their money. And
it's like they don't
know
realize the value of money.
They don't realize the value
because they haven't put their sweat into it. They're not invested.
Exactly. They haven't invested into that. So when you invest into something, and you actually receive the blessing, you are actually able to hold and to carry the blessing, to carry the glory.
Do you just not see like the connections in the Bible and Jesus? It's like, you know, like think about when Jesus, like he turned into flesh and he invested in us all that, and he took all of it onto himself.
Exactly.
It's like, whoa. It's like, because like as me, like your life,
Right.
you're invested in your things you're invested in.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to that like you got to start realizing that every human being you meet is another human being, right? They existed. They were there. They were like you. People are like, oh, no, it doesn't really matter. They don't really make that connection.
Yeah.
And then you can make that next connection where it's like, whoa, like Jesus did it. Like he did it.
He did it. Yeah, exactly. I think you should all follow his example. But I want to pull up another good example of what it means to be able to hold the glory or to carry that sort of blessing.
Okay.
One example is like with Saul. You know Saul. He was basically supposed to be the next king of Israel, and he was chosen, and so he looked like a king, but in his own eyes, he didn't see himself as a king, and he didn't develop the character to carry that sort of blessing to become a king. So he ended up actually not being a very good king, and at the end, it ultimately killed him pretty much, and he abused his power, and because he wasn't able to handle that kind of a blessing, because it was just basically just given to him. He didn't go through anything to get it. It was basically just given to him. Now, on the other hand, you have David, okay, who went through multiple trials. He was already anointed as king, but before that, he had to go through multiple trials of basically he was being pursued by Saul, by his enemies in the wilderness for many, many years, until he was actually able to become king, and that developed character in him, so that he was able to carry that sort of he was able to be a good king of Israel, because he was able to carry that sort of blessing. And so if you're investing time in your character, and you're investing time in going through the struggles and responding the right way during those struggles, you're able to carry the blessing basically that God wants to give you.
I agree.
Because he doesn't want you growing up messed up. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to give you all this stuff, all this money, all this power, for you to abuse it.
Yeah, because at the same point, it's like
he wants to give it, but he's waiting on you to grow up.
Yeah, you gotta grow up. Everyone's gotta grow up.
You gotta grow in character.
And see, that's there's a difference between growing up and just existing longer in the world.
Yeah.
Like. For those of you who don't know me, I told this to my parents a couple weeks ago. I used to have high blood pressure. I was like 18. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. And I thought to myself, I went on the pills for 2 years. I was like, man, it's just killing me right now. I'm just so tired. I had all these adverse effects. I took lisinopril, 240 milligrams, diltiazem. And I was like, you know what? I don't think it's supposed to be this way. I know I'm supposed to I remember what life was like back as a kid. I was like, I'm going for it. So I just got off the pills, changed my diet, did it. I did the work necessary. And I was like, whoa, I'm still alive. And I was telling my parents, I was like, I was ready to just be like, this is my life. If it's the end, it's the end. But also at the same time, I was telling my parents, I was like, you guys were so concerned with me just existing longer. Not that I'm blaming my parents, but it's this whole thing of I just want them to exist longer instead of actually be fruitful and thriving. So there's a lesson for everyone. There's a lesson parents teaching their kids, and kids growing up. You're not just spending time on this earth longer. You actually have to grow up. Yeah. Plants do not grow because it just takes time. They have the nutrients, they have the water, they have all this stuff that it's it's just that is what they do. I mean, and then, as humans, we try to associate with time, but really it's some plants grow more than others and stuff like that. It's just you got to seize it, right?
Seize the moment.
Exactly. Great. All right, well, that's a good talk for the day. We'll post it. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. And, Alrighty.